Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome to the first ever edition of the Raw Report. Welcome, everybody, to the first ever edition of the Raw Report. I am PBR, representing Kayfabe Soup, and we are going to dive into tonight's episode of Monday Night Raw. Now, to start the show, we started with Ronda Rousey coming out. She cut a promo saying she's going to tap out Charlotte and Becky at the same time at WrestleMania, which, I mean, I don't know, like, is she going to put both of them in an armbar at the same time? Like, it would be cool if it happened. Like, I mean, you know, it would look kind of weird, whatever. But I think it would be cool. Anyway, we're setting up a Beat the Clock challenge. Now, allow me to sidetrack for a moment. I've been doing a fantasy wrestling league with my friends for a couple of years now, and we've got this going on Patreon. Go ahead and check us out on Patreon/Kayfabe Soup. We've been doing this for a while, and I have yet to. This is the first time I've encountered a Beat the Clock challenge. So I'm watching this from a scoring standpoint. Like, well, how in the hell does this work? And the commentators didn't do it a whole lot of justice in terms of how it works. Like, I didn't even know how the match works, but apparently, so. Ronda Rousey is going to be in a match, but Charlotte Flair interrupts with her own promo, and then we get to a match with Ronda versus Sarah Logan. So, okay, I guess we get to that. Ronda beat Sarah Logan in 1 minute and 25 seconds, which it's about what you would expect. Now, so the next up was Charlotte versus Ruby Riott. Now, they apparently, one of them had to win in 1 minute and 25 seconds or less, and it was a draw because Charlotte did not win. She put the figure 8 on just as the clock was expiring. Ruby Riott held on. Time ran out. The end. That's a draw. The next match was Liv Morgan versus Becky Lynch. Now, I personally, this is a personal PBR note, I love Liv Morgan. I would like to see her become a thing, get better in the ring, and become awesome. But she hasn't yet, you know. I mean, she's getting there, but whatever. So Becky Lynch won that one in 1 minute and 16 seconds. So what that means is Becky Lynch beat Liv Morgan in less time than it took for Ronda Rousey to beat, who was it? Sarah Logan. And what does this mean for WrestleMania? Nothing. It was fun. Like, it was cool. It was something different. But in the end, it was like, this didn't do anything to hype the match. So we'll move on. Next segment was Finn Balor versus Lio Rush and Bobby Lashley. This was supposed to be an IC title match. Or not an IC title match, but it was supposed to be a match where if Finn Balor wins against Lio Rush and Bobby Lashley, he would get an Intercontinental Championship match against Bobby Lashley at WrestleMania. But wouldn't you know it, because swerve, bro, Lio Rush cut a promo when he and Lashley came out, saying he couldn't compete because of the injuries he sustained at the hands of Braun Strowman last week. So he has a replacement, a new tag team partner for Bobby Lashley. And that was Jinder Mahal. So we get a handicap match. Finn Balor versus Bobby Lashley and Jinder Mahal. You want to guess how it wins? Waiting. Bueller. Hey, Finn Balor won. He won via pinfall over Jinder Mahal, because of course he did. So I mean, I guess Finn Balor versus Bobby Lashley for the Intercontinental title at WrestleMania. It's probably gonna suck. It's maybe Finn Balor will be the demon, and if Finn Balor is the demon, even if it's a 2-minute match, I'm fine with that. It's the demon entrance we all want, and that would be the time to do it. So that's my 2 cents on that. We'll move on. Elias performed in Times Square. Somebody sent him out in the rain, which seems kind of mean, but they sent him out. He performed fine. The next segment is the Revival versus Aleister Black and Ricochet. And, considering how much I love these 4 guys, this match just meant nothing. It was a non-title match. I mean, the Revival are the tag team champions, in case you didn't know. And I wouldn't hold it against you if you didn't know, because have they been promoting them as tag team champions? No, they have not. So the Revival, the tag team champions, versus Aleister Black and Ricochet, non-title match. What do you think is going to happen? Oh, imagine that Aleister Black and Ricochet win when Ricochet hits the 630 on Dash Wilder for the pin. I will say this much, though. The spot right before that, where Aleister Black hit both Dash Wilder and Scott Dawson with the Black Mass, it actually looked really, really good on TV. Like, he hit both of them flush on the face. I mean, that was a cool spot. And then, Ricochet's 630 is always cool. But the thing about this match was it didn't mean anything. It wasn't exciting. I don't know. I'm watching it going, I love these 4 guys, but what are they even fighting for? Like, what's the point? Oh, it's just a boring, 6-minute TV match. Fun. Okay. Let's move on to the next thing. Drew McIntyre comes out. Drew cuts a long promo, the point of which is that he's calling out Roman Reigns. Now, here's the thing. When I said long, that was a few seconds. But the thing is, this Drew McIntyre promo was really, really long. It just kept going and going and going before Reigns finally came out. And I love Drew McIntyre. I think he's the next big heel in WWE. But God damn it, man. I mean, it's like me on our podcast. Just boil it down to a couple of sentences and shorten it, and there you go. You can get the point across in fewer words. So he calls out Roman Reigns. Roman comes out, of course, and they end up fighting in the ring. And in the end, Roman gets the better of him. And I mean, that's about it. Whatever. It's a perfectly cromulent build to their WrestleMania match. Now, I don't know where on the card their WrestleMania match is going to be, but I think it's a pretty good high-profile match. So I didn't have a problem with the segment other than the fact that Drew talked for a long, long time before Roman finally came out. So on to the next segment. Natalya versus Sasha Banks. Beth Phoenix and Bayley are at ringside for this because, of course, they are. This is all to set up the tag team, the women's tag team, championship match. Natalya won this match via sharpshooter, and I thought, as kind of to be perfectly honest, the match itself was kind of boring, but the finish was actually pretty cool. Sasha had Natalya in the Banks statement, and it looked like she was going to get the win. And Natalya did a pretty good job of reversing it and turning it into the sharpshooter, with which she eventually beat Sasha. So, I mean, it was kind of a boring match, but it was fun. As far as TV matches go, it was certainly better than a lot of things. So that was fine. When it comes to WrestleMania, we'll talk more about this on the podcast on Wednesday. I think the women's tag team title match is likely to be Bayley and Sasha defending against Nia Jax and Tamina, who came out to cause all sorts of disruption with this match. It'd be them versus Nia and Tamina versus Natalya and Beth Phoenix versus the Iconics. And I will explain more about my feelings on the Iconics on this week's podcast, so watch out for that. But for now, we're just going to move on to the next segment. The next segment was the Moment of Bliss. Alexa Bliss comes out. She's actually got a set in the ring this time, as opposed to on the stage. Her guest is Braun Strowman. Really not much happened here, other than they had the Saturday Night Live guys live via satellite, Colin Jost and Michael Che. And this is a weird rivalry that they've got going on with Braun and them. But actually, this segment, it was pretty funny. I mean, the way, obviously, Colin and Michael were pre-taped, so Braun and Alexa had to work with the timing of the pre-tape, so they had to fit their questions and whatever else into their responses. But I think it worked out really well. And I will say, when they announced that, or when Braun prompted Colin Jost to get into the Andre the Giant Battle Royal, and then subsequently Colin prompted Michael to get into the Andre the Giant Battle Royal, I didn't really see that coming. I assume this Battle Royal will be on the pre-show, and I certainly hope it is, because this WrestleMania card is going to be bloated as, well, I'm not going to say the word, but it's going to be super bloated. And the Andre the Giant Battle Royal belongs on the pre-show. I hate to say it, but it does. And if those guys are in it, that's a cool, additional layer of, interest. So I'm fine with that. This is a good segment. It was funny. It was entertaining. That's it. We'll move on. The next segment was a match with Baron Corbin versus Apollo Crews, which... as you'll remember from my Raw reactions last week, it happened last week. And, yeah, it was a match that happened. It's like any other Apollo Crews match on Raw. Apollo Crews comes out. He does all kinds of awesome stuff in the ring, hits cool moves, whatever. I mean, nobody cares, because he hasn't been built up to be an actual star. Baron Corbin, of course, is building up to his match with Kurt Angle at WrestleMania, which we're all hoping gets changed. But for now, yeah, that was our match. Baron Corbin won via pinfall because Apollo won last week. So 50-50 booking says, yeah, Baron wins this week. Fine, whatever. We'll move on. Seth Rollins came out, started cutting promo. Paul Heyman interrupted him. And this is where I would point out that Paul Heyman has been super boring for the last few years, having to do the same, Brock Lesnar shtick that he always does. But tonight, just like a few weeks ago when he also worked off of Seth Rollins, tonight was awesome, because instead of Paul Heyman just standing there cutting the same Brock Lesnar promo that he always does, he was working with another talent. He was working with Seth Rollins. And back and forth, the two of them, they did a really great job. I thought this was a really excellent segment. And the way it ended, especially with Rollins chasing Heyman down, Heyman just falls over, and then all of a sudden he's just like, no, I didn't. No, Brock told me to say it. I'm sorry. It was Brock. Brock told me to say it. Ah! And then Seth is just like, nope, I'm not here to fight you. Me and the WWE Universe are here to take the Universal title. I thought that was a phenomenal bit of, I don't know if you'd call it storytelling, but it was a phenomenal bit of something creative to end that segment, and I thought that was a real good one. And then on top of that, Kurt Angle came out for his match after the break, but he came out while Paul Heyman was still just scared and sitting on the ground, and it worked out perfectly with everybody chanting the "You suck, you suck," and then Kurt Angle pointing at Paul Heyman in time with it. I thought that was excellent, phenomenal segment. Moving on, the next match. Kurt Angle versus Samoa Joe. Now, this match was promoted ahead of time. They've been doing this whole Kurt Angle farewell tour. He's going to face Samoa Joe tonight. He's going to face AJ Styles tomorrow night on SmackDown. I assume he's going to have matches on both Raw and SmackDown next week, but they haven't announced that yet. Either way, it's his farewell tour. And when I saw he was going to face Samoa Joe, I was torn, to say the least. Realistically, like, there's no reason Kurt Angle should beat Samoa Joe, but this is pro wrestling. I'm going to suspend my disbelief. I'm going to enjoy the match, or try to, and we'll see what happens. In this particular match, I think Samoa Joe brought a better match out of Kurt Angle than Chad Gable did last week. Obviously, Kurt Angle is way past the point that he should be having matches. Like, I mean, everybody agrees on that. But this time around, I think this was probably his best match in terms of, you know, what he's done in the last 6 months on TV. Like, I think this one worked out okay. In the end, he actually won via pinfall. It was a little fluky, but, you know, it kept Samoa Joe strong. You know, he didn't have to just lose clean to Kurt Angle, which is important. And, you know, Angle wins, continues his tour. As for tomorrow night on SmackDown, I think the intern might have different feelings about it. But, I mean, if he has the same sort of match with AJ Styles, if he wins that match the same way he won this one, I won't be super mad about it. I mean, it was a smart way to do it. He didn't exactly win with an angle slam or an ankle lock. So, moving along. Triple H. Oh, Triple H. He came out and he cut a promo about Batista. Now, he was talking about everything Batista said last week. For those of you that missed it, Batista cut a promo from his office, in his home, in wherever the hell he lives. And it was a much more subdued promo than the one 2 weeks ago, where he spit all over the microphone and made a totally meme-worthy moment of just, give me what I want. No, hey, you tell me what you want. No, I'll give you what I want. And it's back and forth. And it went on forever. So last week, Batista from his office said the reason he's challenging Triple H is because Triple H just used him as his muscle and all this other stuff and blah, blah, blah. So Triple H comes out tonight into the ring and he cuts a promo. And he's talking about how it amazes him that it took Batista this long to figure out that, yeah, that's exactly what he did, which, before we get to the rest of it, I think was genius, because the rest of us are like, oh, of course that's why Batista was in Evolution, because he was the muscle. Like, have you seen Evolution? He was the muscle. That's how it works. So, yeah, I'm glad he addressed that right off the bat. Now, the funniest part of this segment to me is he said he had a letter from Batista, and he goes to pull the letter like out of his jacket pocket, because remember, this is cool Triple H, not corporate Triple H with the suit and tie. No, this is cool Triple H with the leather jacket, and he's going to pull the letter from Batista out of his pocket, and he can't get it out of his pocket. And he's a veteran enough to know that, hey, this is live TV, and he's trying to pull it out. It won't come out. And he literally said, quote, "I'm doing the job for the envelope," which that popped me harder than anything else that happened in this segment, because that was funny as shit. And it's like, kudos to Triple H for like being, you know, thinking on his feet and just nailing that spot. So he finally gets the envelope out and he reads from it. And the point of it is, Batista doesn't want to be in a match unless Triple H puts his career on the line. So Triple H reads the envelope, or reads the letter from the envelope, with a, you know, Spice Girls reference, you know, mixed in there, because apparently this is 1997. So he does that, and yeah, he basically He said he agrees. He goes, you know what? I will put my career on the line in this match. So the thing that I take out of this is so Triple H agreed to put his career on the line in this match against Batista. Now, what's interesting is before this segment tonight, I would have thought that maybe Batista would win because he's the Hollywood star. He's coming in, special attraction. You know, he's not the baby face. They've actually been setting him up as the heel, but I would think that he probably would win just because he's a part-timer. And last time he came in as a special attraction, everybody booed the hell out of him, and Daniel Bryan got into the main event, and then he ended up having to actually tap out to Daniel Bryan in the main event of WrestleMania 30. So I was thinking Batista would be primed to win. Now, with this development and Triple H putting his career on the line, now I think Triple H has to win because, I mean, Triple H is the new Undertaker. He really only wrestles once a year at WrestleMania, has a grand entrance, and he's got a lot of years left in the tank. So I think that he could be that WrestleMania attraction. Whoever he's facing, he can have a match at WrestleMania, and that's going to be, you know, not the main event, but a main event. So I think Triple H wins this. If Batista wins this, I do think they'll find a way to keep Triple H in, you know, the mix for future matches going forward. But we'll see. Either way, I think this promo was a really good wrinkle to the story that kind of, if everybody had already made up their mind as to how this match goes, I think this wrinkle kind of evens things out a little bit. Maybe that's just me. I don't know. Let's move on to the main event segment. It was a last man standing match. Dean Ambrose versus Drew McIntyre. Now, this match came about because 2 weeks ago on Raw, Dean Ambrose got stuck in a little hand railing, which I don't know why that was behind the announce table, but it was on that particular night. It's sort of like watching, you know, The Simpsons. If somebody's wearing a watch, then you just know there's a joke coming up relating to the watch, because why would they be wearing it otherwise? It was like that. So Dean Ambrose is stuck in the railing. Drew McIntyre kicked his face off of his body entirely. It was a hell of a kick. And, you know, Drew won. So, as a result, we get tonight's match. It's a last man standing match. It was a good match. Like, it was a good TV match. If it was on pay-per-view, then it might have been a little slow, a little boring. But on TV, especially with the fact that there was a commercial break in the middle of it, we didn't really get a chance to get bored with it. Now, the commercial breaks, and I've said this on my Raw reactions, but in case you're new to this whole thing, commercial breaks during matches. I get it. You know, you obviously can't go to commercial in the middle of a promo, so you've got to go to commercial at some point. But the thing is, two people could be having a great match. And if you go to commercial for 4 minutes and you come back, on TV are taken out of the match. It's hard for them to identify with the story that the wrestlers are trying to tell. And so many times, like, that's happened where we go to commercial, we come back, I have no idea what's going on in the match. The fans are super into it, like on the live show, but I just don't care because I just spent 4 minutes listening to Frank Thomas tell me about Nugenics. And now we're back to the show, and it is what it is. It's a match, you know? So I think for the people watching this live in Boston, it probably was a really, really good match. For me watching it on TV, it wasn't bad. Like, the Drew and Dean did a great job having a match with the last man standing stipulation. So they had kendo sticks, they had all kinds of stuff going on. Ultimately, Drew McIntyre won with a Claymore kick, which is, it's kind of weird because in this day and age, with a last man standing match, you expect something really crazy to finally hold the other guy down. Like, you know, this day and age, last man standing match, both guys are going to trade finishers, but everybody's going to get back up at 8 or 9, but nope, in this case, Drew hit the Claymore kick and Dean stayed down for 10, and that was it. And the show went off the air with Drew McIntyre standing tall, which was another surprise because I thought surely somebody would run in, like Roman especially, or Seth, or anybody, and nobody did. Drew McIntyre celebrated his victory, showing off the air, and that was that. And that was your Monday Night Raw for March 25th. So ultimately, the way I see things, I think this show was better than last week. I was actually supposed to start this series last week, but after watching last week's episode, I just thought, this was so bad. I don't even want to revisit it. Nobody's going to want to listen to it. Pointless. So we decided to do it this week. And this week was better. There were more things happened. It was a more fun show. And I think hopefully next week on the go home episode of Raw before WrestleMania, some exciting things will happen. Because tonight's show wasn't bad, but it certainly wasn't exciting. It wasn't boring like last week, but it was not exciting. And excitement is what we expect this time of year. So with that in mind, this was tonight's Raw Report. I am PBR, and go ahead, subscribe to us on YouTube where you're watching this right now. Follow us on the social medias, Facebook. We've got Twitter and Instagram at Kayfabe Soup. But even more importantly than that, we have a Patreon. Go to our Patreon, Kayfabe Soup. You can get into our predictions game, which is awesome. You can get into our Kayfabe Soup Fantasy Wrestling, which is going to be super cool. And we've got t-shirts for sale at Pro Wrestling Tees. Just search Kayfabe Soup. It's awesome. Everything we do is awesome. So, with that in mind, I am PBR, representing Kayfabe Soup. This has been the Raw Report, and I say good night to you.